Figure collectors watch the mail, video gamers get to the App Store, and there is another TV show. It's Wednesday, April 7th, and you'll hear about those stories and more this week in Star Wars. This Week in Star Wars is your source for new and noteworthy developments from the galaxy far, far away. I'm your host, Matt Fox. And now, this week's lead stories. StarWars.com announced this week that there's going to be an as-yet untitled Star Wars series debuting sometime in the unspecified future. Apart from those minor details, there's actually a good deal of specificity available about the show in the press release which was put out on Tuesday. The show will feature the, quote, creative involvement of Seth Green and Matthew Senreich, both of the Robot Chicken television show, which has made a name for itself in the Star Wars community for making a series of well-received Star Wars-themed spoofs. Additional names associated with the project include Brendan Hay of The Daily Show and Jennifer Hill and Todd Grimes of children's shows that I'm not particularly familiar with. While it is possible that this show is actually the Squishies project that has been reported on the web and on this program in past weeks, there is no official confirmation of that fact at this time. However, according to Senreich in the press release, there is official confirmation that the show will involve shenanigans.
What?
The full press release and additional details are available at StarWars.com. In news this week about Star Wars television shows that are already on the air, the trailer for the finale of Season 2 of The Clone Wars surfaced on YouTube this week. At just under 2 minutes, the trailer is very bounty hunter heavy, featuring Aura Singh, an English-speaking Bosk, the return of Hondo Ohnaka, the pirate, as well as, drumroll please, young Boba Fett. That trailer is also available on the Cartoon Network website, and the episode should air sometime in May. In the meantime, you can hold yourself over with the episode The Zelo Beast, which premieres this Friday, April 9th on the Cartoon Network. This week's collecting news. Reports on several collecting sites indicate that those who got their orders in for the Nadar Vebb exclusive mail-away Clone Wars figure have been receiving those figures in the mail. While the Qui-Gon and Eope Episode 1 mail-away offer expired at the end of last week, the Nadar Vebb promotion continues. Lucky recipients have been posting pictures and reporting that the cardboard backdrop of the figure unfolds to create a diorama scene much like the late 90s Expanded Universe figures. Nadar Vebb can be yours with 5 UPCs from currently shipping Star Wars figures, as well as a shipping and handling charge. Details are available on the Hasbro website, HasbroToyShop.com, as well as in selected figures available at retail now. Fans of Star Wars minis know that the final expansion, Masters of the Force, is due out later this month from Wizards of the Coast. Well, StarWars.com has been publishing a series of previews from that series, and this week made available 5 more. Included in these 5 were previews of 2 pieces representing the Dejarik holographic chess pieces from the Millennium Falcon. If you're a fan of the Star Wars miniseries, or simply are curious how a game piece representing a game piece from a fictional science fiction movie could be represented in real plastic, should check out the StarWars.com website. Transitioning from board games to video games, users of iThings rejoice. The 2 new iPod, iPhone, iPad apps, mentioned on previous episodes of This Week's in Star Wars, are now available at the App Store. These include an updated Lightsabers Unleashed combat game in which you can fight your friends over a Bluetooth connection, as well as the Diner Dash-inspired Star Wars Cantina. Both games are published by THQ and sell for 99 cents and $4.99 respectively. THQ also released a Yoda soundboard app, also for 99 cents, which again is available at the App Store. And Jesus, do I love to say app. The Doom-inspired classic 1990s Star Wars first-person shooter Dark Forces appears to be coming to the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Portable sometime in the near future. props to website PSX Extreme for noting that the ESRB website, which rates the appropriateness of video games for children, has updated the Dark Forces entry to include both of those platforms. This, according to the site, would indicate that the game will soon be available as a download for those platforms. Fans of Star Wars Galaxies or computer desktops should check out starwarsgalaxies.station.sony.com for a series of Star Wars Galaxies the trading card game wallpapers. That site is hosting literally dozens of images from both the prequel and classic trilogy eras, some really good, some not so good, almost all of it interesting enough to take a look at. If you're a fan of the game, like Star Wars artwork, or looking to spruce up your desktop, go take a look. In traditional publishing news this week, Dark Horse released the third of the periodic one-off series, Purge. Like its two predecessors, this issue, The Hidden Blade, co-authored by Hayden Blackman of The Force Unleashed, takes place in the months following Revenge of the Sith, and tells the story of Darth Vader hunting down the surviving Jedi Knights. Swing by your local comic book shop to pick this one up. And while you're there, keep an eye out for the Dark Horse Omnibus Boba Fett, slated for publication later this month, but spotted early. As reported before on This Week in Star Wars, this fall expects to see the publication of The Making of The Empire Strikes Back by J.W. Rensler, follow-up to 1997's Making of Star Wars. If you can't wait till October, next week's Entertainment Weekly features a cover story which previews the book. The summary, available on the Entertainment Weekly website, indicates that the preview will include a number of exclusive photographs and excerpts from the book. Look for the issue with Leia and Chewbacca on the cover on newsstands April 9th. One correction this week. Last week we reported that Hasbro would be releasing a subset of chase figures as part of this year's vintage collection called the Antique Force Detail Collection. You'll recall that our source for this story was rebelscum.com. Well, it would appear that that story was an April Fool's joke by the folks over at rebelscum.com, even though it wasn't posted on April Fool's Day and the fact that it still hasn't really been retracted from the news page. So, feel free to disregard it. Way to go, guys. You got us. Visit the This Week in Star Wars homepage, and you'll see that our Celebration 5 countdown clock indicates that we're just 125 days away from the first really big official Star Wars shindig of the decade. And let's see, what do we know about it so far? We know that Carrie Fisher's going to be there, and we know that there's several hundred people who will pay a whole lot of money just to cut in line. Aside from that, we don't know much. Now, I haven't gone back to look at the archives to see exactly when information started filtering out about previous celebrations, and maybe as I enter my senior years, my memory's getting a little hazy, but it would seem to me that with 4 months to go prior to celebrations 4 or 3, we had a little bit better idea about what we could expect to get when we got to Indy or Los Angeles or wherever we were going. Now maybe there's a master plan and they're just waiting to filter it all out, but in the meantime it just sort of seems that C5 is kind of haphazard. Now I'm sure that's actually not the case, and I'm sure I'll have a great time when I'm there, but a little bit of new info would be great right about now to whet my appetite for mid-August in the Orlando heat. One other bit of housekeeping before we close this week. This Week with Star Wars is now associated with StarWarsFanWorks.com, a collection of Star Wars audio projects, including audio dramas, podcasts, and parodies. Go to StarWarsFanWorks.com and check out some of the other podcasts that are out there, and let's just do what we can to grow the community. And that was This Week in Star Wars. Join us again next week for more news, notes, and developments from the galaxy far, far away. Visit www.thisweekinstarwars, or, for our lazier listeners, www.twisw.com where you can find links and more details about some of the stories mentioned in today's show, as well as the internet's go-to resource for literary critiques of the Cannonball Run Part 2. This week in Star Wars, we troll the web so you don't have to.
This Week in Star Wars is not affiliated with Lucasfilm, its subsidiaries, or any other entity mentioned in this podcast. Star Wars, its characters, and creations are the property of Lucasfilm. All other trademarks are property of their respective trademark owners. This Week in Star Wars is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast is copyright 2010 This Week in Star Wars. Invaluable technical assistance provided by WebStorm Interactive. News, comments, and questions can be directed to host at thisweekinstarwars.com. More information, links to stories presented, past episodes, and additional contact information are available at www.thisweekinstarwars.com.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.